This edition of MacVoices is supported by you, our viewers and listeners, through our new Patreon campaign. If you get value from MacVoices, please consider helping support the show by visiting patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is our CES wrap-up show. All the videos are out. They're all edited. Hopefully you're seeing them all in your feeds, or if you're not, go check our YouTube channel, our Vimeo channel. Subscribe to the Weekly Dispatch. They will be and have been listed there. But by all means, there are a lot of them. We are recording this show, however, about halfway through the release. So I'm not going to say exactly how many we did because I want to make sure that everything turned out. But suffice it to say that there are a lot. But this is a little bit different wrap-up show. First of all, I've never really done an exact wrap-up show, but I wanted to invite the gentleman who was either crazy enough or brave enough, or you can pick your own adjective, enough to volunteer to be my cameraman for CES this year, Norbert Frassa. Norbert, it's great to have you back after spending multiple days with you in Vegas.
It's great to be on the show and to be able to have a few days back at home and in the normal routine again, and get the Vegas out of the system and back to work.
You never want to get the Vegas out of the system, Norbert. Come on.
It'll come back. Don't worry. It comes back. Yeah.
Well, so you and I had gone back and forth a little bit. You had volunteered, and I thought, no way this guy can be serious about wanting to come to Vegas and put himself through this. But you said, yes, you wanted to. And so, folks, for 4 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Norbert was with me as the person behind the camera, trying to keep us framed well, which he really did, try to keep people from stepping in front of the camera, which he really did well too. Norbert, I want to start though with you before we talk about shooting the videos and everything. This was your first CES, so what do you think now that you've been through your first one?
Quite frankly, it was eye-opening in every aspect of the word. I'm a technology enthusiast. I love technology. I'm constantly looking for new trends, looking for what's out there, what can make my life better, and just the sheer volume of products, of vendors, of people. It's everything that I could have imagined and even more. It was just completely impressive. A lifelong dream. It was fantastic and well worth the 4 days of our troubles and walking around and sore feet and so forth.
Yeah. Well, now to keep it in perspective, I don't think the official numbers are out, but the last numbers I heard were based on registration, 180,000 attendees, 2.9 million square feet of exhibit floor, and what was the other big one? 4,500 vendors.
Yes, and 1,200 startups at Eureka Park.
Really, 12? Okay, I didn't have that one. So yeah. Suffice it to say that in the days we had, we couldn't even cover a very small percentage of this. But I think I'd like to think that we gave the flavor of CES to everyone.
Oh, definitely. I think we were able to get a good perspective of just different trends throughout the floor, different types of products, different things that would make your life better for education, for people that are parents. Just try to get a little perspective of everything. There is, like you said, it's impossible to see everything and to see the entire floor. It's just like going to Disneyland for the first time, if Disneyland was 10 times the size that it is now. But just to try to get a little perspective of what's happening out there. And one of the most interesting pieces for me was just to talk to the vendors and talk to how that product came to be, that somebody had an idea or somebody had a problem that they needed to be solved. And lo and behold, after so many iterations and modeling and so forth, that product comes to be. not only to solve that person's problem, but hopefully to solve other people's problem. It's the problem solving aspect of it was just amazing, and to hear the stories of the birth of some of these products that we were able to see. It was the things that you don't get to see when you buy something on the box or buy something from Amazon. You get to hear the story behind the product.
And that's why I always like to focus, especially on the people that we talk to. I mean, the products are why you're there, but the people and the stories, unlike you, are really fascinating. We walk by more than one booth where, and absolutely no disrespect intended, but there are times you look at it and think, who would spend the money on developing this and spend the money to come and exhibit here to try to get some attention? And unfortunately, sometimes you saw those people, with their head in their hands, just kind of waiting, begging somebody to come and talk to them. And then there were other people, it's like, okay, this is such a niche product, but if you have the need, this is perfect.
Yeah. We kind of joked about it that sometimes you would walk by a certain vendor or certain booth and you really didn't understand the product. So didn't want to make eye contact to kind of keep on going to our next destination. But just the amount of time, not just at CES there, but the amount of time that was spent by the developers, by the manufacturers, by, it's not as if you just show up to CES with a product or an idea and there you are. It takes hours to get there. It takes capital to get there. It takes money to get there. And I was just amazed by how much, capital and how capital intensive this entire conference is, not just the conference itself in regards to the splashy TVs and, the yachts and the boats that we saw and everything else that we saw was fantastic. But the human capital of the sweat and the tears, to bring the product. And like you said, you and I might not have a need for a certain product, but maybe somebody else does. So it's there.
Yeah. We started in the Sands Convention Center in Eureka Park, which is where the really small booths are. And we worked our way around over then to South Hall, Central Hall, and North Hall. And it seems the perception, I think, for the most part, is that as you make that transition, the booths start to get bigger and things get a little more spread out. And by the time you get to North Hall, that's where most of the automotive stuff is. And we rounded one corner, and it's kind of difficult to explain to anybody how you can round a corner and see a yacht in the middle of the floor and not know it was there before. But that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was intended, if you intended it to go the way that we went, but we built up to this crescendo, started off with the smaller booths, started off with the medium-sized booths and bigger products. And then we just kind of get to this climax of we turn around and we look up and there's a yacht in front of us. And we're like, wow, there's a yacht. But then you go behind the yacht and there's an 18-wheeler with an RV that's hidden by the yacht. So I have no clue what else you could ask for. You just get to that point and it just continues to grow. That at the end, I think the joke was between us. Finally, my jaw just dropped. I couldn't hold it in anymore.
Yeah, I did not plan it that way. It sort of works that way well because you seem to be able to pick up a lot more content. There's a lot shorter distance between booths at the Sands and in Eureka Park than as you move along the path we did. It seems like things get a little more spread out, and so there's a little more time between booths, and you want to try to make as much as you can of the time you're there.
Oh, definitely. It's just amazing, and the other plus is as you're going from booth to booth is soft carpeting is a plus. Soft carpeting is very nice. Helps the feet.
Yes, definitely. So the other thing we did Sunday and Monday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, technically, we went to the press events. CES Unveiled, PepCom, and Showstoppers. And those are not exactly show floors. I mean, they are press only events, and it's a bit of a different environment. Did you expect that environment, or was this something a little new for you?
It was a little new, but it was a welcome change from the show floor, something completely different, like you said. You have a little bit more of an intimate feel in those types of events where you aren't herded through the big, huge showroom floors. You get to understand the product, and yeah, you might not have a full display there, or all the products are working there. That might be on the show floor, but you get to spend more time with the vendors and a little bit more intimate of an experience than the show floor is.
And it feels more efficient for what our objective was to try to talk to as many people as possible, because you are there. Everybody's there for the right reasons. The exhibitors are there to be seen and talked to, and the journalists and the press people are there to talk to those exhibitors. And it always feels like you can be a lot more productive there from that perspective. Sometimes on the show floor, boy, it can get really frustrating. I mean, you and I saw, the way I prefer to cover CES, what I try to do is to sort of have the experience we did. Walk around the show floor, or give that perception that you're walking around, stopping at a booth. You're getting the 5-minute pitch, you're asking a few questions, and then move on, out of respect for the audience that's watching it, from my perspective, but also from the standpoint of other attendees and other press people who are trying to get stories and talk to the right people. And sometimes, boy, there was one booth we watched, and they monopolized the booth for I don't know how long. We finally gave up and walked away and had to come back, because they were taking more glamour shots of the products than they would a model. I mean, it was crazy. So, it's everybody has their approach to covering things, but sometimes it gets a little invasive, I think.
Yeah. I think for the most part, most of the media that was there was very respectful of other media that was there, try not to monopolize that person's time, ask their questions, and then move on, to allow the people behind you, because you do sometimes build up, 2 or 3 people in line to talk to that vendor, to talk to that company. But for the most part, most of the media was very respectful of each other, except for that one example that you said.
Yeah.
Who shall remain nameless.
Yeah. We're with the outlet and the booth shall remain nameless, so you can't go out and figure it out.
Exactly.
So this is probably very unfair, but was there a big surprise for you other than just the sheer size of it? Anything in particular that you really didn't expect in the way that things were handled, or exhibitors did what they did?
It's just a different perspective. When you're watching the videos of the products on YouTube, or you're watching them online, you don't get that feeling of the enormity that is actually CES. The example that I said when we're talking about it is the Grand Canyon. You see pictures of the Grand Canyon, and it looks fantastic. It looks enormous. But when you actually go to the Grand Canyon and you're standing there in front of the cliff, you actually get to appreciate the majesticness of the Grand Canyon. Same thing with CES. You see the videos online, you see the products, you see the press releases on the computer screen, but it's not the same. For the most part, considering the fact that 188,000 people. For comparisons, I was looking at the population of Las Vegas, and it's 641,000. 30% increase for 1 week. I've been in conferences in Vegas before, and I've been in certain hotels for conferences before, but I never experienced the conference that engulfed the entire strip of Las Vegas. Everything was CES. Every hotel had some sort of booth, had some sort of event, had presentations. Complete restaurants were just covered or rented out for at least for that night by certain companies. They had banners, they had posters, they had their signage in front of it. It was the entire city was CES. There was no Vegas. It was CES. And, except for the traffic was just unbearable. For the most part, I thought that considering the amount of people that were there, it was handled relatively well. You can see most of things. People are people. We have to deal with the crowds. But considering the amount, the sheer amount of influx of people for that short period of time, it was handled very, very, very well by the organizers.
What you mentioned the traffic. One thing that was a small highlight for me that you weren't there for. I had a meeting at the Hard Rock Hotel one morning, and summoned a lift and ended up with a self-driving lift, which was interesting as my first ride in a self-driving car. And
I wish you would have told me about that.
I wish I'd have known. That as soon as it popped up on my screen, it's like, "Would you accept this?" Like, yes. I almost broke the phone, saying, "Yes, let's try it." I did learn a couple interesting things. Probably the most surprising, there was a driver, because I don't know if this is Vegas law or Nevada law or what, but they were not allowed to go autonomous on private property. So, like coming onto the Mirage property, they had to have a driver to, pull up and go to the lift area, get you in. But as soon as they pulled down on the strip, they turned it on autonomous mode, and it took off, and it was terrific. And it was one of those things that's like it was a non-event, because it just did everything that a human driver would do, but the human driver wasn't touching anything. So that was definitely fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You also mentioned, up and down the strip, everything. The JBL Harmon section at the Hard Rock Hotel was just simply amazing. I didn't go prepared properly to cover that because I didn't know what I was walking into. And I want to give a shout out to them because, some amazing products. They gave me a booth tour, and next time I will be a little more prepared, because they basically took over the convention space of the Hard Rock Hotel with all their products. So that was very, very impressive. But you're right. Everywhere up and down the strip, everything is CES, and it's everybody says you can't appreciate it until you do it once. And I didn't believe that until I did it once, and then I understood. And I think you would probably agree with that.
Oh, definitely. It's like I said, unless you actually are able to experience it firsthand, the videos just don't do it justice of what the enormity of the entire conference and the entire week is.
One thing I do want to answer a couple questions that I seem to always get after about the fourth video, that gets released. I get emails saying, "How do you decide who to cover and what to cover?" And it's, first of all, you have to do some preparation, or you would never get anything done. But the way I look at it is, first of all, I definitely will go back to see booths with friends that I've made over the years at CES to see what they're doing and what's new. You can't get to everybody's booth that you become friendly with, but you try to hit the ones that or that have given you a press release that say, "Hey, we're sharing something new and different." The second way is to go sometimes to those companies, and I've had people say, "Gee, you often go back to some of the same ones." Yeah, I do, because I think they're high quality companies, and pretty much anything they release is going to be worthy of your attention. Anything new is going to be worthy of your attention. And then after that, it kind of depends on press releases and walking around. Who gives you something that sounds interesting, sounds relevant. And of course, then there are a number of booths we stopped at just because, hey, that looks interesting. Or occasionally you will concede the point and let somebody flag you down and give you a pitch and like, "Hey, that's a pretty good pitch. That sounds like something that would be interesting to share with folks." because again, 4,500 exhibitors, we got a very, very small, very, very small percentage of that. And so we try to bring you that feel. But I can't give Norbert enough credit. I mean, for somebody that just dove into the deep end and framed everything well, we definitely got some shots that we would not have gotten without him. Because up to this point, as you probably know, I've been a solo shooter for most of all the CESs, and that means you position the camera, and then that's pretty much where you stay, and try to bring things into the field of view. And with Norbert helping out, he was able to capture a lot of interesting shots, interesting angles, and different things. Probably the most interesting was the Owlcam video where he shot from the back seat of a Land Rover inside Pepcom, inside the show floor hall.
Yeah, that was the quietest of the interviews that we were able to have, because we were in that Land Rover. They didn't allow us to take the Land Rover, which was a shame. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to experience it firsthand and to see it in action.
And it seemed like such a good idea when we got in. But after about 3 minutes, it started to get awfully hot in there because obviously we couldn't run the engine. So
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So listen, I want to say thank you. I mean, I hope it was worth it, and I didn't beat you up physically too much, because we started early every morning and worked straight through. I don't think there were not a lot of breaks taken, and so I really appreciate everything you did for me and everything you did for all the viewers and listeners, because I hope they get a sense of what CES is and saw some really cool products and saw some really great people.
Yeah. Like I said, it was my sincere pleasure to help you, to help the voices, to help the group, to help the website, and just to be able to put out as much content as we could in that short period of time. We were late to dinner once or twice, trying to shoot an extra video here and there. But at the end of the day, I think it was all worth it. It wasn't as if we just showed up and started shooting video. I have to give you a lot of credit, because there was a lot of pre-work that was done before you actually landed in Las Vegas. The amount of press releases that you had to go through, the amount of preparation to figure out what would be a good product for the audience, what would not be a good product, to try to get a good sampling of various products that they're not all in the same genre, so to say. And I think that helped tremendously, that we had, a game plan. We would veer from the game plan here and there, and we would see something and just kind of stand there and experience it for a few minutes, and, maybe talk to the vendor or not talk to the vendor. So it's a little bit of both. You have to have some preparation before. Like I said, there's no way that you can see the entire show floor. But if you have a game plan of what you wanted to see, what you want to take out from CES, and also give yourself a little bit of extra time to explore, to wander, to, like you said, we were sometimes like a little bee going from one point to another point. And some of the best times were when we would kind of stop and look around and see what was going on around us. And we would say, hey, wow, that's a great vendor. And we would shoot some great video there. That wasn't even on the list. So it's a little bit of both. You have to have some preparation, and you also have to have a little bit of fun, as is the balance in life.
When did you turn into a philosopher? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but at the end of the day, my the thing that I will leave with CES again are the people. The stories of the vendors that I was able to listen to, the information that I was able to get that doesn't show up on websites, that doesn't show up on the box when you buy a product, the here and now, spending time not just with you, but with our other cohorts and our other friends in the evenings and along the way. That's what makes it. That's what made it special for me, to build those relationships. And like you said, a lot of the vendors, we might have been walking by, and a couple of the vendors said, "Hey, I remember you from 2 years ago, or I remember you from last year. Come and talk to me." And it's all about relationships. It's about bringing us together, and that's what technology is a way for us to solve problems, to try to bring us together, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because we shared several dinners with Dave Hamilton and John F. Braun from the Mac Observer, Allison and Steve Sheridan from the NosillaCast. And that is always, at the end of the day, it's fun to relax with friends and, get off your feet a little bit, get some good food and, talk about what everybody saw that day because it is interesting. I mean, Allison does her thing. Allison and Steve do their thing. Norbert and I did our thing too. And sure, there are going to be some overlaps, but you'd be surprised at how much overlap there isn't. And a show that size, it's pretty easy not to have overlap. But
Yeah,
even the overlap that occurs, the approaches and the points of interest, I think, are different. So even if you watched my interview with someone, you can watch Allison's with that same person or vice versa and take away different things.
yeah, it's like seeing CES through different lenses. You you wrap up at the end of the day. Everyone's tired, but everyone's has a little bit of a buzz inside of them of what they saw for that day. They're excited to share that I saw this and I saw that and I talked to this person and, oh, I missed that exhibit. Where was that? And you're like, oh shoot, well, next time I'll be able to catch it. We had a couple of those experiences, but it wasn't a competitive, I want the interview and you shouldn't get the interview. It was, everybody has their own way of tailoring their content to their audience. And like you said, there was some overlap, but for the most part, there wasn't. And that was a great thing, that we're all technology enthusiasts, working in the field, but we all have different perspectives of things. And that's what, gives us more of a well-rounded conclusion, so to say.
Yeah. Well, I hope this wasn't too much inside baseball for some folks, but I thought it would be really interesting to just get some of your perspectives as a first-time attendee, and also to very publicly say thank you for all your efforts, all your hard work, because it's a lot of fun, but yeah, it is, at the end of the day, it's a lot of hard work. And so thank you. I really, really appreciate it.
It was my sincere pleasure. Look forward to possibly next year. We'll see if I'm re-invited to go back, and I'll have to go and talk to my psychiatrist to make sure that everything is up in here working the way it should be working. But it was work. It was a lot of walking. Was able to close my rings each and every day, which is great. But at the same time, it was an experience that I will always cherish. It was wonderful, wonderful to be able to experience CES firsthand. That you can't really experience it off of a YouTube video.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if you're willing to put your head back in the lion's mouth again next year, absolutely. I would love to do it again. We as we always do. Every year I learn something different. Sometimes it's something on the show floors, the way you shoot, and sometimes it's in the processing of things after the fact. And that's something I may talk about later on another show once the dust is all settled and I've had maybe just a little more sleep. But yeah, if you want to come back, and do it again, we will definitely do it again and have more fun and have more sore feet and exhaustion.
like I said, I'll have to check with my psychiatrist first, make sure that everything's working the way it should be working. But at this point, short removed from the experience itself, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Sounds good. Norbert, thanks so much for everything, and thanks for sharing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to work with you, and pleasure to work for the website.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Things will get back to normal, at least for a little while, until NAB in April. But until then, and until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our MacVoices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple Tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep MacVoices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.